We are starting with serious news, which won't come as a surprise to you, to talk about Linda Beardy, 33 years old, a mom from Lake St. Martin, whose body was discovered at Brady Road landfill. And I'm sorry to get into this so quickly, but I want to make sure you have time to respond. She's the second woman found there in less than 12 months. What are your thoughts on the urgency of this moment, Premier, when it comes to the lack of safety for Indigenous women in our province?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that my heart goes out to the family and friends of Linda Mary Beardy. This is an absolutely tragic situation that has transpired and unfolded, and to the community of Lake St. Martin as well. We certainly think about all of them right now. In the loss that they're facing. Frankly, this is happening way too often. We don't like to see this at all. And, it's important that we are taking action and working together as a community and with other levels of government. And I know we have recently partnered and set up an integrated missing persons response unit to ensure with the police to ensure that we're taking action on that part. But I can tell you, as a mother, this is one of the most tragic situations that a mom can face or that parents can face.
I want to ask you about some specifics, because you've stood in this moment as Premier before, because police believe remains of at least 2 other women are in the landfill north of Winnipeg, Prairie Green. That feasibility study, listeners might recall, we're expecting out in about 4 to 6 weeks. I'm wondering whether or not you will commit to a feasibility study of the Brady Road landfill, given the news this week. Is that something you'll commit to?
So certainly we're in discussions as well with the city of Winnipeg, with the police. This is an ongoing investigation, and so we need to be careful not to, to jeopardize that in any way at all. So again, we'll have those discussions moving forward with various officials, different levels of government, of course. This particular site, I guess, is in the city and part of the city, and so we'll have those discussions. But again, I need to emphasize that this is still under investigation with the police, and so we need to let that process move forward as well.
Which I respect. But I know in December you didn't rule out a feasibility study for Brady. So I'm just wondering now.
I'm not ruling out anything. Certainly we want to get to the bottom of this, and but we'll have those discussions in a collaborative way. We need to all be working together on this.
You were here when the news was on, so you've heard Elder May Louise Campbell saying, we gather, we cry, we pray like 6 times a year and nothing happens, nothing changes. Indigenous leaders continue to say that their roadmap to make women safer is right there in the MMIWG calls to action that came in 2019. And they're mandatory to implement. Can you give me a specific example of an action beyond what you've stated about the integration of law enforcement that's been taken by your government?
So you mentioned May Louise Campbell, and May Louise is part of the Clan Mothers. And the Clan Mothers have come up with a healing village to help with these vulnerable women in the community. And we are the only level of government that has funded that organization. And I've actually been out there. It's a place right outside of Winnipeg, just north of Winnipeg, near it's right on actually Lake Winnipeg, a beautiful spot. And I can tell you, I've been there for sort of the opening of the land there, and been there with the Clan Mothers. They do incredible work, and so certainly we will continue to support them in their efforts. I think the important thing here is that they know best how to help women and children.
But they've told governments, right? Like they've told your government, they've told the federal government. It's on this document. It came out 4 years ago now. What to you talked about the urgency of this moment, that something has to be done. So what's next? What's the next call to action when you look at that list that you can commit to?
But part of that, again, is what I'm talking about, is working with the Clan Mothers, working with May Louise and other elders in the community who know best how to help their children. And I think it's supporting them in their efforts, and we will continue to do that.
I guess what I'm getting at, just as a last question here, is do you look at those recommendations because they're mandatory, and do you say, okay, we have done this, we need to do this next?
Yeah, we're still committed to implementing the calls to action from the MMIWG inquiry, and we'll continue to move in that direction.
Do you have a concrete action plan out of even the Aboriginal Justice Inquiry, though, at this point?
Yeah, we do, and we'll continue to move in that direction. I mean, these things are not going to happen overnight, but I can tell you we're committed. I don't want to see one more young woman or anyone for that matter end up in this kind of a situation. And, my heart goes out to the family, the community, and this is a tragic situation.
I want to switch gears and talk about proposed Bill 33, which would establish the licensing requirements for addiction treatment centres. Now, that includes supervised consumption sites. I know your government said it consulted with 17 organizations that provide treatment, and also with 51 people with lived experience through those organizations in an online survey. But there are key stakeholders here that say they were caught off guard. I have a short clip from Dr. Sarah Mattias. Here's what she said to us.
I, for example, am a physician who's part of a group of addiction medicine specialists, and we were not even aware that this bill was in the works. I know amazing community organizations like Main Street Project and Sunshine House had the same concerns, that this took all of us who are directly working in the field by surprise. And so it was the lack of consultation, the lack of communication with the experts in the field before this bill was proposed.
Now, what's critical, and you'll know this in this, is the exclusion of Sunshine House. They're the only group that's already doing harm reduction that directly with people in Winnipeg. How's it possible that they and others weren't consulted?
So let's go back to Bill 33, and actually what it is it's bringing in, it's
not about that, because the NDP already said they're going to hold it up. So actually, I want to know why they weren't consulted.
You asked me about Bill 33.
No, I asked you why they weren't consulted, in fairness. Okay. I'm just trying to stay on time and get your response.
Okay, but there is ongoing consultation process. This is the framework. Bill 33 is the framework that comes in. After that, the regulations will come in, and there will be ample consultation when it comes to the regulations. And that's where all of that will come forward. So it's important to understand the process first, because there's a lot of misinformation going on out there. But what I will say is that, that's
so let me understand the process. Then you consult with all these groups and put forward a proposed bill. And what you're saying is, even though that bill was not proposed, there's still room to consult more.
There is absolutely. There's always room for further consultation.
Why would you not have included the one organization, though, that does this work in your initial consultation?
Again, we will be consulting with groups and organizations right across the province, and those consultations will be ongoing.
Okay.
And when it comes to Bill 33, but on this whole thing, the focus on one harm reduction strategy. We are doing a lot in terms of harm reduction, but we're also focusing on recovery. And I think you need to talk about that continuum of care. When we're looking at people with addictions challenges, it's really hard on them, their families and everything else, and we need to help them through the process. Harm reduction is one part of that, but we want to focus on getting them off their addictions as well.
But that's a misunderstanding of addiction with respect. And I'm just going to quote something here, because before you, Premier Pallister sat here and spoke about a treatment approach to addiction as well. Your government's focusing on treatment options as well. Advocates continue to say people who are going to use supervised consumption sites may not be at a point in their lives where they're seeking treatment. They're seeking survival. So they're going to a consumption site for that. I'm wondering, how has your government come to a different conclusion about the intricacies of addiction?
Well, first of all, supervised consumption sites are not a panacea to dealing with addictions problems and addictions challenges in our community. And I think we need to start recognizing that. That is one part of this. You need to talk about the entire continuum of care. It's not just about supervised consumption sites. It's about moving beyond that and making sure that we're putting mechanisms in place to allow people to get off of their addictions. And so focusing just on one area, okay, and we are focusing on that, but you also have to focus on recovery. I can tell you that my opponents are not talking about that at all. They are fixated on one area, and that is not a panacea to the challenges that we're facing in addictions in our province.
Will you be talking to Sunshine House then and those other organizations that felt
We will
left
be
out
reaching out to
right
all
now?
organizations out there.
Just last, I know this is sort of going to be abrupt change because we're into deep issues, but I am wondering, and I do want to ask you at 5 minutes to 8 here, we just heard what people are doing this long weekend. What are your plans for Easter?
Well, I'll be spending time with family, probably getting some rest. But it is it is Easter and a time to celebrate. And certainly we do celebrate Easter in our family. And I just want to extend a very happy Easter to everyone out there. It's a time to gather with friends and family and to celebrate. And so, Marcy, we were talking earlier, we're empty nesters. My husband and I miss my kids, but I know that they will be celebrating where they are as well. And we'll be thinking of them, and we'll be on, I'm sure, on a Zoom call with them or something as well.
Is it your first Easter without them?
It might be, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really hard. I can say I've got
right?
a little tear in my eye, but thinking about my kids.
Well, happy Easter to you, Premier. Thank you very much.
to you.
We're grateful for your time.
Thank you very much.